Nobody waiting. That's fine. Okay. Happy early Father's Day, everybody. I'm gonna talk a little bit about today about a couple of different things to do with Father's Day. I'm sorry, I just got back from Tamarindo from doing a ton of errands. Just walked in the door, and I do not like the way this dress looks on here. Here I was thinking I was being clever wearing my bust minimizer bra, but obviously not. Anyway, I'm Suzanne Tidkamara. I used to be No Longer Quivering for almost 10 years. I wrote for that for Pathos. Now I'm just working on my own little projects. I want to talk a little bit about fathers and the role of fathers and fatherhood and Quiverful and all of that today. Why? Well, it struck me today. We're almost at Father's Day. And this morning I got up and oh, this is pathetic. I can't open this. Maybe I need a man. I shouldn't say that. Anyway, long story short, I was thinking about Father's Day and fathers because of so many different things. Father's Day is Sunday. It's going to be Sunday here too. We don't do a whole lot for holidays here because there's not a whole lot to do like there is in the States. But it got me to thinking between that and this morning I was talking about safety as far as realification. I was talking about safety as far as going to the beach because that's a big thing. If you're not somebody that goes to the beach regularly, you can really get in some trouble. One of my best friends posted on Facebook this morning about the issues of riptides. Apparently, hey Cheryl, she's from where is it? Vermont. And it's not like she goes to the beach a lot. I go to oh god, that thing's hot. I gotta move it. Um, I do go to the beach a lot, quite a bit. And if you're somebody that doesn't go very often, it's really easy to get caught in a riptide and be taken all the way out. And she was talking about that. That's what happened to her. She got caught in a riptide and could not get out. So thinking about that, thinking about riptides, giving advice on how to get out, which is go sideways. If the beach is here, just keep moving sideways and you will get out very quick. Here there's big billboards that show you how to get out. There's all kinds of stuff. They have people drowned here all the time for that. So that led me to think about Father's Day because I started thinking of all the great surfers that I've seen at Playa Grande, which is where the professionals go. You see the beginners on Tamarindo. That's where all the surf schools are. It's a lot different surfing conditions in Playa Grande. And I started thinking about my father. My father would have loved it here. I would have loved for him to have been able to visit me here, but sadly he passed away in 1999. My father was a great man. He liked to surf when he was younger. He taught me how when I was a teenager. Well, actually earlier than a teenager. And it was something that we could do together when I was a teen. And by the time I'd reached teenhood, even though he was an excellent father, I had decided I knew it all and I did not need a father's guidance. I don't know how many of you guys have reached that point with your father, but I certainly did with mine. And I'm regretting it. I wish I'd have treated him better when I was a teen because he's taught me some of the biggest lessons of my life, including surfing. He was one of the first people in Ponchatoula, Louisiana to have a surfboard. He made it. He made it in his wood shop back in the 50s after seeing something on surfing and deciding that that sounded like fun. My entire childhood, when there was oh, Lisa, so he took me surfing on the Gulf Coast, and I learned very quickly about riptides, even though riptides are not as bad when you're in the like Gulf Coast area of the Caribbean. It's just not as quite the thing as if you were yeah, he was a fun dad, Cheryl. He was also a crazy dad. He tried to kill us all when I was like 7 or 8 by driving the car into the LSU lake. And at the time I was freaking out, but now looking back at that thinking, boy, you were a dumbass, Dad. Because the LSU lake is 2 feet deep, something like that. The only thing that happened was he just looked really stupid and they had to haul the family car out. And my parents told some kind of story to the police about losing control and running into the lake. So he was parts good and bad. Besides teaching me how to surf, he taught me how to use woodworking tools and all kinds of things because I was not the boy he anticipated. But he was a good dad, even though, like I said, he had his moments. He was a crazy dad. He worked in a bank my entire life and worked his way up to being like bank president at various banks he'd been at. He was, and but his real passion was clowning. He was a part-time clown. Oh, and he could be embarrassing if you weren't expecting it. He would pull his little clowning antics. And when I was a teenager, I hated that. But now I look back and it's actually kind of amusing. Like I said, he was definitely the fun dad that taught me everything. Oh, so I contrast that with dads in Quiverful and other dads that I've seen in my life. My ex-husband was not a very good dad to our daughter. And she reconnected with him this year, and it did not go as well as she'd anticipated or as well as I'd wished it would go. So there's that. So for some years, I had to be a single mom, and I disliked it. I disliked being the heavy, everything falling on me to do. I hated that. The heavy gets hated, are blamed for being mean. When I married Jim, I have to say he could not have been a better father. He did a great job with both of our kids. I can't stress that enough, how important it is that a father, even if you're not married, is important. We all have daddy issues, Lisa. I still have mine, and the fact that my father tried to kill us, he tried to be a mass family exterminator, doesn't say anything good about that part of him. My parents had a very, very, very unhappy marriage. It was put together, arranged marriage sort of thing. So I never got abused, I will say that, by either of them. I did get significantly neglected at various times. And that's one of the things I appreciate about my husband. He hung in there. He did all the hard parenting stuff, even when I was sick, even when whatever was going on. He did all of that. And I can't say I ever had that in my life. My father, while he was a great fun and he taught me all these great things, he wasn't, he didn't know how to talk to teenagers because I saw my stepbrother go through all the same horrible things that I went through once I hit a teenage years. No family murder here. Well, he didn't kill us. He just tried in the world's stupidest way, which was driving off the road into LSU lakes that are 2 feet deep, and we're sitting there in our Ford station wagon, like, why did you do that? They were having a terrible fight in the car in front of me and my aunt. I had an aunt that's 3 or 4 years older than me, who stayed with us for many years, and it was just a stupid situation. And it all makes me appreciate my husband so much more because he would never do that. It also makes me look at these guys in Quiverful. Because one of the things that I have observed in Quiverful during my years there is fatherhood is absenteeism. I'm just going to come right out and say it. It's only being part of the child's life when you're wailing the crap out of them with a plastic hose. That's it. If you've seen the publication put out by Bill Gothard that the umbrella, the big umbrella that's Jesus, then there's a slightly smaller umbrella under it that says husband, and then there's an umbrella beneath it that says wife and children. Basically, the way Quiverful fatherhood seems to run is there's no interrupting daddy. Daddy gets to do what he wants, including check out on the hard parts of raising a family. They don't educate. They don't hang around with their own kids. Mothers are expected to do all of the emotional labor, which is hard. And there's some emotional labor that is easier for a mother to do than a father, such as a daughter talking to them about birth control or sexual experiences, something like that. I think that if you're a girl, it's just going to be easier to talk to your mom about those things. And we've had those kind of conversations that did not get shared with my husband and probably never will. So the other thing about Quiverful, besides the fact that a lot of these guys are checked out, there's a reason why many of them are super checked out, because the way Quiverful is set up, a lot of times you have guys that are working crazy hours just to be able to put white bread on the table, much less anything of any nutritional value. So there's that. There's um, there's the whole theology that says that the father is king. Don't bother the king. Let the king have his martini in front of the TV. Daddies can do no wrong. You are absolutely right about that, Lisa. Daddies can do no wrong. They're gods on earth. They're just below gods. They get to interpret the Bible for the entire family. They get to interpret the theology and control everything, not just the money. They control everything, including, like I said, the emotional labor that mostly falls to women. So quiverful fathering is not really, it's not really what I would call fathering. If the only time you ever pay attention to your children is to beat them, that's not a good idea. That's not a good look for anybody. I like to see fathers that are engaged with their children in just about every way. Oh, so that's it. They're daddies on earth. I mean, they're gods on earth, these daddies and quiverful. Also, in certain evangelical and fundamentalist sects, they control beyond everything. They always interpret that to their benefit, Lisa. Always. Thinking of polygamy and LDS. Yes. I think that's a really good example. The sad thing about fatherhood in men and LDS culture, FLDS culture, fundamentalist LDS, and Cindy Kunzman and I saw this play out like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe, is when when the going gets hard and the heat gets hot from the cops, they run. That happened when the government, when the federal government here took control of the United Order Brethren. I can't remember, UEB is or UEP, something like that. That they took over the entire thing. That was pretty much self-run before, and not necessarily in a good way, but it was self-run. They took over that, and they didn't do any better. Basically, they wanted all families to pay like $100 fee for their houses every month, and just a bunch of different things. And when they came down like that, what happened? Hey, Cheryl. Yeah. What happened when they did that was that a lot of them ran. A lot of the men just packed up and ran. A lot of them had arrest warrants out for them. But while they were running away from the government control, and we're talking about, this is where Short Creek is, where Short Creek used to be. This are two communities that straddle a line between, is it Arizona and Utah? I can't remember right now. But those guys ran. They all ran. And then the government started repossessing the homes and kicking the kids and the mothers out. There were no fathers involved whatsoever. And I don't know if it's because of the polygamy they weren't involved, but they had all run off. The women and the kids, and you can ask Cindy Kunzman about this, and you can look also at NLQ, because we wrote about it a number of times trying to fundraise. They ended up living in tents or less in the desert, in the middle of the desert in winter and spring. There were well over 1,000 women and children living in the worst poverty you could imagine, out in the middle of nowhere, with husbands, fathers, nowhere to be found. Yeah, Lisa, I don't know as much about the LDS. I have had only minor interactions with them. When we lived in Virginia, Hellendale, yep, Utah, and Short Creek, Colorado. When we lived in Virginia, the Mormons would come around like clockwork, knock on our door, And for a long time, we'd say, well, whatever, just say how nice and send them on their little way. Then one time, I had a pair that was extremely pesky and came around and wanted us to go to the church and everything else. We went to the church once or twice just to see what it was all about. We were curious then. And that was a huge mistake because it soon turned into they were almost harassing us. They were calling and coming by all of the time. And what ended it was the night before Easter, 9:30, the night before Easter, when I'm pulling my hair out trying to hem Easter dresses, I'm trying to roll a small child's hair. I'm trying to make sure that my son's suit fits him. I'm trying to get everything ready, and they're calling me. I had words for them, and they weren't thank you or happy birthday, or even happy Easter. We had words that time. Hey, Angela. And basically, that bought me like 4 or 5 years of peace from the Mormons. They obviously had marked my house as do not call for any reason. And that ended, and then they started showing up again, and I had various head knockings with them. I know what they believe in about the Book of Mormon and all that, and I just don't buy it. It seems kind of out there, right up there with Scientology. So that's about the most I know about them. I know way more about the FDLS because of the interactions I've had, and because of all the fundraisers and the things we've had to do, and the notoriety of them being on TV all the time. Lisa, don't let them think you are a bit interested to be your doorstep to the point of claiming as dependent. That is the experience I had. It was a pretty terrible experience because at the time I wasn't so struggling with my health, but I was struggling with some other things. And it was just, they just made it a whole lot harder. Oh, Angela. B, I've had that experience too. And I've had them here too. I've had experience here. One night, oh, I want to say it was about a year ago, maybe a little more. It was pre-COVID, so it had to be longer than that. I think maybe the September before or November before COVID struck. We had ordered my husband a desk from a guy here called Bruce. Bruce, what is Bruce's business name? Oh, I'm having a senior moment. Anyway, Bruce here has a huge shop on the road between Tamarindo and Wancas, where he has all this beautiful handmade furniture. He makes it all. He's a gentleman who's maybe 80 or so, 75. And he built my husband a desk. And he was delivering the desk, and I'd bought something else. I don't even remember what it was from Bruce. I'd bought several things, and he was delivering them. So our gate was open, and in come the Mormons saying, "Can we help? Can we help?" So we had them help us carry the desk in. And we talked to him for a little bit. We let him know, no way are we interested in your religion in any way, shape, or form. They call every now and then, or text, but we don't open the door. We don't let them in because we're not interested. I don't want them on my doorstep. Ah, Cheryl. I lived in Boise, Idaho for several years. I was the only non-LDS at my job. Our house seemed to be circled on the missionaries' map. Oh, that sounds like hell. That sounds like hell. Because I've worked with fundamentalists before too that have made my life a living hell at work with their constant weird judgment and come to Jesus's. From the land of green jello and funeral potatoes and mayo on everything. Oh, yes. That reminds me, somebody gave me a recipe for funeral potatoes. I had never had such a thing and didn't even know they existed until one of my friends in the Midwest was telling me about it. I'm like, I've got to check this out, but I got to put some Tabasco in it first. So that is the long and short of it with fathers and religions. You see a lot of control going along. A lot of religions are based around the patriarchy. If you read what Jesus did, he's not supporting a patriarchy. He treated everybody the same. He didn't care if he came across the woman at the well who had all these husbands. None of that. He just talked to women like they were regular folks, like he knew that. And unfortunately, the church has never learned to do that, sadly enough. This is going to be my first Father's Day to not be at church in a long, 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 long time. We are making the transition. Jim's trying to train somebody to do what he does and telling them that he's going to go, and we will see what happens with that. I think we're going to go to a different church, but truthfully, I'm kind of done now. I'm done with the patriarchy. I'm done with stupid men trying to tell me what to do without an ounce of the same. Lisa, no, there's no churches any centered around women. I used to have a Bible that I would get a lot of crap for from my friends at my old church for, because it was a woman's Bible. It was a woman's study Bible, and it wasn't your standard submit, 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 submit Bible. It was a Bible that looked at the role of women in the Bible. So every time there was a woman in the Bible to emulate or who had done something great, they'd break it down and talk quite a bit about the role of women. And it wasn't such a submissive thing. It was more like the Proverbs 31 woman, where they talk about owning a vineyard, bringing honor to your husband with your hard work and your ingenuity. There's a lot of that. No, I don't want to have asthma for Father's Day. We're in wet season here, okay? And I was out a little earlier. I ran out. I garden every day, and was working my garden. And then we ran errands, and I told my husband, I was like, because he wanted to go walk the beach, and I said, I'm not walking the beach when it's difficult to breathe, and it is definitely difficult to breathe out there today. So I'm in asthma avoidance mode in all ways, shapes, and forms right now. And if that includes not going to church, I'm fine with that. My views are different from them anyway. The church that we were going to since the pastor left has become way more fundamental. Is the only way I can describe it. There's some fundamentalist beliefs. There's some evangelical beliefs. They're teaching one of David Jeremiah's books in the men's study group. And I just keep picking on my husband saying, you can listen to that. That guy is not very smart. David Jeremiah. I've never liked his sermons too much. I've never, even when I was part of the culture, he was not one of my favorites at all. But apparently they're all into the eschatology. Up at the church right now, all the men are doing the eschatology study and studying when Jesus is coming back. And that's why they're supporting Israel. They're supporting Israel because they want to see Jesus come back. And the only way that'll happen is if Israel is attacked. There's so much about fundamentalist and evangelical thinking that just absolutely horrifies me. I don't know about the Church of the Daddy. I would, hey, do good letters. I would have something like the Church of, name a famous woman, the Church of Feminina. I'd probably be, I would probably be, really have rocks thrown at me then. You think the fundamentalist, independent fundamentalists, new independent fundamentalist Baptists hate me now and threaten to come here and shave my head? I think if I did that, they'd put me on their hit list. As it is, they think that I'm off the charts. And I have to tell a tale about that too. There was a guy who is former Amish that does a YouTube show, asked me to come be on his show. Well, I felt weird about it anyway, because the person that referred me is somebody that I talked to who's just way, way out there on the right wing fringe, but I know them through the the new independent fundamentalist Baptists, the new IFB. I knew them through there. I got to know them because of the whole thing with the teenage girls. That church ended up being targeted for SA, and I got that shut down. I got the parents to at least go to law enforcement and say, hey, this happened to our kids. I got them to understand a lot of stuff. So I knew this woman through there. So she told this guy to interview me. We set up the interview time and day and everything. And then he friended me on Facebook. And then I saw that he wasn't just an anti-vaxxer. He was a complete and total conspiracy nut. I mean, there was not a conspiracy that he did not engage in. He seemed to think that, oh, I don't even know how to say what he did, but when he started saying all that about the COVID vaccines, I'm putting the Bill Gates chips in you. Of course, I had to dispute that. I dispute all of his claims about the COVID vaccinations, and he blocked me. The interview never did come off. So this is a really dangerous type of thinking, this whole patriarchy, and it cuts across lines. This guy had left the Amish, which is a pretty serious and hard thing to do, yet he was still engaging in the most radical conservative ideas on the planet. Cheryl, that makes me laugh. So far, the English language churches here are evangelical, so I worship on my own. I have no filter. They would just ask me to leave anyway. I have no filter now. My filter was broken when I had had a stroke 2.5 years ago, a very mild one, but it broke my filter. It really did, because afterwards I was kind of like, why am I holding back? Why am I holding back on what I actually really think about stuff? Church is just a building. You are right. Your faith is in your heart, in my humble opinion. That's right, Lisa. I believe that very seriously. Facebook is like running a credit check. Oh, it is more like free flow and sewer. I have to laugh because I did finally get another Nigerian scammer. The last 3 that I had, Facebook squashed them before I could even toy with them, and that's not good. I have to be able to play with these guys. And the last bunch have been really, 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 really dull. So dull. Cheryl, I haven't had a lot of filter, but after that incident, there was no more filter. How little filter was there after that? We're sitting at the bus station for the bus to come back here from the hospital in San Jose, still wearing my patient tag on my arm. And my husband turns to me and said, tell me, did I cause your stroke? The nice thing would have been, oh, honey, no, you didn't cause my stroke. So I was like, damn straight, you caused my stroke. You stressed me out. Because in that moment, I was just not feeling like being kind or nice or anything, even though he did not cause my stroke. But the stress levels he sometimes puts me under aren't healthy, because I am the person that does a lot of the things around here, like he's flying out here very soon. I'm the one that bought the plane tickets. I'm the one that is arranging all of the tests he needs to get back in the States, taking care of all the travel information, all of the paso de salud he needs to get back in the country, all of those. Cheryl, it was an honest answer right there. That is an honest answer. Lisa, I would buy cheap stuff from them on Marketplace any day of the week myself, but I try to avoid. So that's what's interesting, is sometimes when someone Facebook friends you, I mean, how do you deal with that in the context of when someone Facebook friends you and you don't really know them? I have a real problem with this because of NLQ. I get a lot of Facebook requests because of that. And sometimes you friend people and you go and you look at their timeline and you're horrified. Like, there's some people from the NIFB that I'm friends with who have left that I finally had to just mark them. Please don't show me their stuff, but let us stay friends. And that's something that's really important, that when you come out of fundamentalist religions or you come out of any kind of high pressure church, to develop is boundaries. And that's one of the hardest ones. Father's Day has always interested me at various churches because of the tales that are sometimes gotten up and told. I've heard guys get up and talk about how their fathers were rat, you know whats, and how horrible their childhoods were, and how they managed to turn it around, and that their daddies eventually, when they turned 80, became good Christians. It's interesting. I just ignore them until it goes away. I only friend them if I know they know my friends, and look them up first on other platforms too. Lisa, yeah, I wish I could do that, but because of NLQ, I do that more now. Even though I did just unlock my Twitter, so I try to ignore them too. For the most part, I don't friend a lot of people. I friend people I know, but you can't have me rant if you can't handle me ranting and rambling on about how much I can't stand some of these conspiracy theories. I'm surprised at some of the people that stay there, but developing boundaries is like one of the hardest things you can do after you leave. For me, it's been one of the most difficult because you're part of this high demand religious organization that tells you you don't have rights. So when you do things like one time I had oh, what do you call that? I had this medical test that was the thing that they look at babies with, a sonogram sort of thing, all over my body looking for something. And the girl that did the lady that did the test did an excellent job. But after she was done and we were waiting for the results, she said, "Hey, let's let so and so do this to you too." And I didn't have enough sense to say, "Oh no, I don't want some rookie doing this to me for fun." She was trying to get her person she was training some actual hours doing this stuff. And because I didn't have great boundaries, I said, "Yeah." I ended up, bruised all over the place, and I already have low platelets. This person just bruised the crap out of me on my torso. How do you get bruised during an ultrasound? How hard do they have to be pressing with the thing? The reason she wanted the lady to practice on me, she said that it was easy to see my organs on the sonogram, which kind of made me laugh because ultrasound, because I didn't know it could go through fat like that, but apparently you can. So there it is. I don't have those boundaries. I'm working on them, working on them, working on them. I didn't know that about Joyce Meyer and her father. I used to follow Joyce years and years ago. My husband did more than I did. He'd watch her. My mother would say, "Oh, look at that lady and her beautiful jewelry." My mother would mention her sometimes, once in a while. He abused her for years, yes, into adulthood. He most definitely did. I knew about that. I just didn't know he'd turned around and become a believer. Yes, Cheryl. Cramming for that final exam. I see people do that all the time. And I'm curious. I'm always curious when I see somebody who's lived a life of horribleness and turns around at the last second and says, "Oh, yeah, I'm a Christian now. And I'm forgiven." And you're like, meh. It's not always the easiest to watch that and not grumble, gripe, and groan. At least I know for me it is not. But then again, um, modern Christianity is such a strange beast that I'm just not a big fan of it to begin with. I'm unbelievably disgusted with some of it. Disgusted, disgusted, disgusted. Come to Jesus moment. You are right. That come to Jesus. And that's the other awkward thing about families and fathers. I've known so many fathers and mothers to be fundagelical, to be part evangelical, part fundamentalist, whose kids fall away. And then every holiday, every Father's Day, every Mother's Day, every Christmas, every Valentine's Day, every holiday just becomes a excuse for them to act awful to their offspring and demand that they become a Christian as a tribute to them. Because you love me, you'll come to Jesus. Worst reason ever to convert. Really. That's where you just kind of and run away. I was the oddball of my family. Almost no one in my family is Christian. Almost everybody is some form of Catholic and only goes Easter and Christmas, marryings and buryings. I guess they consider themselves Christians, but I'm talking about as in fundamentalist, like an evangelical movement. Real, you're right. We do need to come together for a fellow creator. A fellow content creator is homeless with her daughter, and I feel we need to all come together and help her out. She is part of this community. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We need to do that. If you can get me a link to send it to me somehow, I'll be more than happy to help out. I'll be more than happy to do a video and promote that. I think that's an awesome thing. Years ago, like I said, the last big push we gave was when thousands of Mormon women and children were living in the fields. I am all about that. We need to fundraise for her and get her out of that situation. Give them the D. Does she have a go? Yeah, that's right. Lisa, she said, oh no, does she have a GoFundMe? Yeah, she needs to have one if she does not. If she does, you can drop us a link. I'll go ahead and put that in my video and put it, I'll do a separate thing for it altogether. Oh, goodness, Cheryl, this is somebody that you know? I am sorry to hear that. I can't imagine that. That's one of the things that I have to do here. I have to go talk to a homeless woman that I pretty much cut off and didn't talk to her anymore because I was believing what everybody at church was saying, which I've since discovered is a lie about her. They manipulated her and they got rid of her. They got custody of her child going to somebody else. Oh, real. Let me see what I can do. I may have to do a little bit of research and see if we can find out if there's any way to get money to her, because that's a heartbreaking situation, being homeless with a child. Give them the D. Okay, I'm gonna have to take a look. And Cheryl, you follow her, so you know a little bit about her. The video is 2 days old. Okay, so we'll know where to go and where to start with this. It happened recently. She's done some. She done some anti-KJ videos. You're saying, Lisa? I don't get to see all the videos because there's so many. There's so many. I kind of pick and choose. Yeah, thanks for letting us know, Ren. We're gonna go see what we can do about that because that is a terrible thing. That is a terrible thing, and there are all kinds of reasons why people end up homeless that have nothing to do with themselves. That's one thing I know is how I'm truly blessed here, and I know that need to pass it along. I guess. Well, I'm going to go because I'm rapidly running out of oxygen and water. And I can't talk long on that without that. Man, can you tell I'm kind of dinged out today already? No oxygen and a whole lot of quilting going on. So there's that. Okay, you guys. Love you guys. Think about your fathers as the flawed human beings they are. One thing I wanted to say last about fatherhood. There is a beautiful movie out there called, I know you have a heart, Ren. There's a beautiful movie out there called Smoke Signals, and it's all about a troubled father-son relationship in the Native American community, which is always dear to my heart. And the very last scene is just heartbreaking. You'll end up in tears if you watch it, where the son finally comes to terms with the loss of his own father and the loss of his father from his life many years before. And there's a Native American ladies singing group that does the last song, and they read the most beautiful poetry about fatherhood. So I'm going to put the link to that in my description if anybody wants to see it, because you can at least see that sequence, even if you don't watch the whole movie. It's a movie from, I don't know, 20 years ago, something. Cheryl, please, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and contact me if you get any information. I'm going to see what I can do on my end too. I'm going to do a little digging if possible and see if I can. It's a whole lot better than some of this crap that I've been digging into this week that I have decided to let go, which was the awfulness of some of the church members. I'm just going to let them go off and be the awful they want to be and stay away from having asthma at church. Yeah, real. Yeah, thanks for letting us know. And I know you have a heart. There are people that don't think you have a heart. There are people that don't understand that we can fundamentally disagree with people over all kinds of things, but that doesn't mean that they have to be our enemies. That's one thing I don't like about this community so far is I don't like all the fracturing and the fighting. I have tons of friends I don't agree with. I was just talking about on Facebook. I have people that when they post every 5 seconds about politics in a way that makes me crazy, I just click on that, show me less. Because I still want to be their friends, but I really do not want to be their friends to that extent. I mean, that's just crazy. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go. I'll see you guys later. Love you.